I'll come back to that while my computer is trying to stream and do everything at once. Paul says, you keep saying cricketers need fat for power, but there is a difference between Cornwall and Dre Russ. Matthews was way fitter than Kohli. Matthews was way fitter than they're the same age. Shaw and Cornwall should get leaner. Okay, so Path, look at baseballers. Look at the power hitters. Tell me what kind of athletes you think they are. If you're gonna make a comment about this, you need to know the full story. Go and have a look at baseball hitters, and then have a look at Raheem Cornwall, and I think you'll get a better idea of perhaps what you need to do. So there is a difference between Cornwall and Dre Russ. Cornwall can mishit sixes with ease. Dre Russ needs to get the ball closer to the middle of the bat. There is a big difference. Now, you're assuming there that Dre Russ and Cornwall are a similar strength. Cornwall is way stronger. This isn't about fat. It's about strength. Cornwall was so strong that the NFL wanted to trial him, right? They didn't want to trial Andre Russell. So what were they looking at there? It's about the force that Cornwall has available to him and the strength that he has. I don't know about your Matthews and Kohli thing. I don't really understand the point there, what you're trying to make. Shaw and Cornwall should get leaner. I mean, Shaw is not a power hitter, so he should get leaner, but lots of cricketers should change. There are lots of lean cricketers who are thin, but not built for cricket. So who do we focus on? We focus on usually the cricketers who look overweight to us. We don't look at the other cricketers who don't get their body ready. I can tell you, I know of West Indian cricketers who had absolutely great bodies with 8 packs and everything else, and their fitness people were saying to them, they are not fit for cricket, right? There is many different ways of doing this. And when you just go, he's fat, so he's not as good, you have to actually understand the whole thing. Cornwall would be able to replicate what he does more often if he was slimmer. And he did lose like a huge chunk of weight at one stage in his career. But we have a whole history in cricket of players being overweight and still being successful. We have seen that in other sports as well. Like it's not, cricket is not the only sport there, and baseball is the closest sport. And we've certainly seen baseballers. There are 2 different kinds of baseball bodies, right? When it comes to hitters, there's the guys who can field really well and steal bases, those sorts of guys, and then you have the catchers and the sluggers, and they're a completely different kind of physicality. I think every athlete in the world should do everything they can to make sure they are as fit as possible to be as good as possible. But I also understand that most of them are not like that. There are some athletes who I know do more work on their body than others, and those other ones look skinnier. So what's the point there, Path? Right? What do you do at that point? Because I was reading this really interesting article of recent times about how fit people usually become personal trainers, and fit people who become personal trainers quite often very bad personal trainers. And the reason is they're not actually that good at getting fit. A lot of it is just genetics, right? They don't put on fat the same way. Their bodies are completely different to other people, and so they are now trying to help people who have trouble staying fit, right? Who maybe put on extra weight in certain parts of their body. And they don't know how to help these people because it all just comes off them every time they stop eating 2 pizzas a night, right? Shreds off them. They get back to fitness. They can run for further, they're different kinds of athletes and everything else. The point of cricket is there are many different kinds of athletes. And what we have tried to do over the last couple of years is try and turn everyone into the same kind of athlete. And what I am saying in cricket is that Raheem Cornwall is a plus athlete in cricket. He's a plus athlete because of his strength. He's a plus athlete because of his height. And he's a plus athlete because of his hand size, right? We are telling him he's not a good athlete because he's not Faf du Plessis and he doesn't have a 6-pack, right? Could Cornwall better use his height and strength and everything else? Yes. Do you know who else could? Many tall bowlers fall over at the crease. So watch them. They collapse at the crease and they don't use their full height. And then you have other guys like Jacob Oram and Josh Hazelwood and Akshar Patel who bowl to their full height and actually end up with massively higher releases than other bowlers who were taller than them. No one ever complains about them. Those tall bowlers not using their height correctly. Very rare. Occasionally you get a former bowler who'll moan about it a little bit, right? Very rarely do we talk about that. We talk about fat people because we fat shame all the time, right? Jesse Ryder is a perfect example of someone who was fat shamed all the way through his career, and yet New Zealand would use him at point. Why did they use Jesse Ryder at point? Because his first two steps were as quick as anyone in that side, right? He could move around absolutely brilliantly in that position. You know, a point was a really good diver at gully as well in test matches and everything else. So what are we measuring? So that whole 2K time trial and the skin folds test and all this, there are just people who, no matter how much fitness they do, are going to have slightly higher skin folds than other people, right? It is just a fact of life. Oh, did I ever get that thing that Rohit wanted?